Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. Now, if you're gearing up for competitive exams, you know Indian polity is a huge deal. So today, we're going all the way back to the beginning, to the story of the group that literally wrote the rulebook for modern India, the Constituent Assembly.
So the big question is, how did this assembly even happen? How did it go from just an idea to a real thing? And trust me, this isn't just some boring history lesson. Nailing this down is absolutely key to understanding the Indian Republic and, let's be honest, to grabbing those essential marks on your exam.
First things first, where did this whole idea even come from? Well, let me tell you, the assembly wasn't just some gift. Nope. It was something that was fought for, tooth and nail. It was the result of a demand that stretched on for decades. The demand for a constitution written by Indians, for Indians.
Yeah, just take a look at this timeline. The ball really got rolling back in 1934, when the idea was formally put forward by M.N. Roy and the Swaraj Party. Then, just a year later, the Indian National Congress officially jumped on board and made it a core demand. But get this, it took all the way until 1940 for the British to finally accept it, and even then, only in principle, with their so-called August offer. So you can see, this was a long, slow grind.
And this quote from Mahatma Gandhi in 1939, wow, it just perfectly captures the spirit of the whole thing. He said, "The Constituent Assembly alone can produce a constitution, truly and fully representing the will of the people." See, it was never just about getting a set of rules on paper. The whole point was that those rules had to come from the people themselves. That was the game changer.
Okay, so the British finally caved and the demand was accepted. But now what? I mean, how do you actually go about building a group this massive and this important? Let's dive into the nuts and bolts, the actual blueprint that brought this assembly to life.
And it all came down to one single, super important document, the Cabinet Mission Plan of 1946. You've got to remember this name. This was the official framework, the master plan that spelled out exactly how the assembly was going to be put together.
The whole plan revolved around a very specific number, 389. That was it. That was the total strength of the Constituent Assembly. 389 members.
So where did those 389 seats come from? Well, if you look at the breakdown, it's pretty clear. The lion's share, 296 seats, went to what was then British India. And the remaining 93 seats? Those were allocated to the princely states.
Okay, now listen up, because this is a huge exam pointer. This is the kind of detail that trips people up all the time. The election for the assembly was indirect. I'll say it again, indirect. The members were not elected by universal adult franchise. This wasn't a case of every single adult going to the polls. That is such a critical distinction to remember.
So you're probably asking, how did it work then? Well, it was actually pretty straightforward. The members were elected by the existing provincial legislative assemblies, and the seats were divided up based on population. Roughly one representative for every 1 million people. Makes sense, right?
All right, so the blueprint is there, the members are chosen, the stage is officially set. It was finally time for the assembly to come together and begin its absolutely monumental task.
Now you've got to lock these 3 dates from December 1946 into your memory. They're so important. On December 9th, the assembly meets for the very first time. Boom. Just 2 days later, they elect a permanent president. And then, 2 days after that, the famous Objectives Resolution is introduced. I mean, think about that. Everything moved at lightning speed in that first week. So for that very first meeting, they did something interesting. They followed the French practice, which was to have the eldest member act as the temporary president. And that person was Dr. Sachitanand Sinha. But then, just 2 days later, they held a formal election, and Dr. Rajendra Prasad became the permanent president.
And that brings us to that Objectives Resolution I mentioned. This was a really big deal. It was introduced by Jawaharlal Nehru, and it wasn't just some dry plan. You could really call it the soul of the Constitution to be. It laid out all the guiding principles, the whole philosophy, the vision for what India was going to be, a sovereign, independent republic.
Okay, so we've gone through the whole story. You've got the concepts down. Now it's time to put that knowledge to the test. Let's tackle some actual multiple-choice questions from past exams. This is where the rubber meets the road, folks. Ready? Let's see how you do.
All right, question number 1. This is fresh from a recent MPPCS exam. Through which plan was the Constituent Assembly created? Go on, take a second to think about it.
Did you get it? The correct answer is B, the Cabinet Mission Plan. Remember, we said that was the absolute core blueprint for the whole process. Easy peasy.
Okay, on to the next one. Now read this one carefully. Who chaired the first meeting of the Constituent Assembly?
And the answer is C, Dr. Sachidanand Sinha. Ah, see? It's a classic trick question. Dr. Rajendra Prasad was the permanent president, for sure, but it was Dr. Sinha who served as the temporary head for that very first meeting on December 9th. Great one to remember.
All right, last question for our rapid revision. This is another one from a recent exam. When did Nehru introduce that all-important objective resolution in the Constituent Assembly? Think back to that first week.
That's right. The answer is D, the 13th of December, 1946. That was the third big event that wrapped up that truly historic first session of the Assembly.
And there you have it. That's the story of how India's Constituent Assembly came to be. So, as we wrap up, I'll leave you with this to think about. Of all those guiding principles laid out in the Objectives Resolution, justice, liberty, equality, fraternity, which one do you think matters most for India today? That's some serious food for thought. Thanks for joining me.